Alright. Hello everybody. My name is Brian Gresham, aka Yogo Trollbait. And I am the author of the Scorpion mid-range deck that's been the top Scorpion deck for the last week or so. Its prior version was top last week. So yeah, I actually did another recording for this very same deck, but the sound was completely off. The music was way too loud. People couldn't hear me. So I'm redoing it, and I'm going to go in a little bit more detail as I'm doing it as well. So you can find the link to this deck in the description below, so you can follow along there if you want to. You should be able to see it just fine here, but just in case. So first of all, the deck is a Scorpion deck, obviously using City Open Hand. And I have it labeled as a tournament mid-range favor control, and it's in the 7.0 edition. The reason why I have it as a tournament deck, I've been playing this in tournaments and it's been doing extremely well. And it's a mid-range favor for control. It does a lot of focus on gaining the favor and maintaining it, keeping it out of the opponent's hands. It is a mid-range deck, and I'll explain what that is in just a moment. And it's in the 7.0 version, meaning that I have had 7 online published versions of this deck. Now there has been more of that, but this is through the official testing I've done and what I've posted once I felt comfortable with a certain version of it. So this is the current results that I'm running right now. Now this is what's called a mid-range deck. In order to understand kind of the purpose behind it, you need to know what the deck's supposed to do. Mid-range is a flexible deck style, and for those unfamiliar with the card game term, you have a couple different styles, general styles of decks. Now there's variations in between and thereof, but the kind of main poster child are aggro or aggressive, mid-range, and attrition. Aggro are decks that they want to burst you down, pressuring you beyond what you can respond with. They tend to burn through resources very quickly to finish you as fast as they can. Lion Little Guys is a very good example of this, to where they just play as many as they can. And they do things like charge things in or stuff of that sort, and then they use For Greater Glory to keep them around, and then they just keep breaking 1 to 2 provinces a turn, just creating a tempo you can't answer, and you're dead in 2 to 3 turns. The exact opposite of this is an attrition deck. Attrition decks tend to be ones that they like to control the board state a lot more, forcing you to expend your resources, allowing them to build up their state. A lot of times Crab and sometimes Phoenix can fall in this line, to where they take a little bit of time to set up, and once they do set up, they're incredibly difficult to get through. Crab, they are very defensively minded, but they're only at their strongest after they've had some time to prepare. And Phoenix have kind of changed in what they used to be. They used to be similar to the Crab in the fact that they needed some time, they were defensive. Now they can be just as aggressive, so you kind of have to be aware of them with that. But mid-range, what this deck is, it's a flexible style. What it does is it bounces between a variant of those other two. The aggro, if you're facing an aggro deck, you're going to be playing more of an attrition game. You're going to stall things out, you're going to stop them from taking provinces and slow down their momentum enough to where they lose all of their tempo. They have spent their resources, and now you have the advantage. The opposite end is when you're facing an attrition deck. Let's say like that Crab, or if sometimes I faced a Crane attrition deck that was kind of going for honor, which is not super viable at the moment, but it is still there and something to be aware of. Those kind of were an attrition style, to where they are trying to outlast you. They will do things like Crab will play Way of the Crab on their little guys to take out your big guys, maintaining them a large tempo swing against you. And against those decks, this one will try and pressure them to where they can't set up. They don't have an opportunity. And to be aware of the switch between these, this deck cannot excel at one or the other like the others can. I will never try and outdo provinces with a Lion player. If I have the opportunity and they make misplays to it allows me to, I'll take it. But that is never going to be my goal. I'm never going to try and outdo them there. They are stronger, I know that. I'm going to take my advantage and push that. Same thing with attrition decks. You should not try and stall them out, because that's what their deck is supposed to do. Now, attrition is not as prevalent in the game at the moment as the other decks are, because it's not as reliable, but it's getting there. Another problem with attrition is in tournament play, they tend to go to time a lot more often, so it's a little bit harder. So yeah, so this deck is designed to kind of swap between the two and kind of play middle ground. It's not a, you know, one strategy wins all deck. It has to change, it has to adapt. So in order to play this deck, you do have to have a little bit more skill in the game. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to be aware of the potential matchups. In casual play, you don't usually see like exactly what they have in their deck unless they're a person that you're playing against frequently. And in some tournaments, you do have deck lists, but if you don't know what they're playing, you have to be able to play around what the possibilities are. As soon as you know what splash they have, you have to be able to know what the possibilities are. As soon as you're attacking their provinces, you have to be counting them to make sure you know what you're attacking, or possibility to attack. You have to be prepared. It's very intensive as far as the mental process that goes into it, but it's a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding the better you get and the more your knowledge goes up. So this current version does use a Dragon Splash. The Dragon Splash has proven to be a lot more reliable for me than what I was using previously. I originally started this deck with Phoenix for the control it gave me, but it was not as strong as the other options. I was doing fantastic beating everybody but Lion and Dragon. Lion I was consistently losing, and Dragon I found myself in a couple situations that would have been solved with attachment control, which I didn't have any. I had just the calling in favors, and those didn't prove enough. So what I did is I splashed these for Let Go and Miyamoto's Fury to balance those out, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit later. But so this does use Dragon Splash, 5 cards from Dragon. So yeah. So if you want to follow in the guide, I do have an extensive guide with this, and I'll just kind of scroll down here just so you can see it. It is pretty lengthy, but I do go into a lot of detail into my strategies, reasonings, tactics, things like minute things such as, you know, cancel targets, potential targets, that sort of thing. So if you want to follow that, you can. I'm not going to go into all the guide because there's no need to. I'm just going to go into my process behind building this deck, and the reasons why I have each card in here. So first of all, we're going to tackle the provinces. The provinces are going to be, after Seeker, Void allows us to bring 2 Void provinces, which is extremely powerful. Originally, a lot of people were upset that we didn't get a keeper roll because we didn't get to use the backhanded compliment, which this is way better than backhanded compliment, and I'll explain why. So we're going to have the 2 Voids. For our Air province, we're using Secret Cache. It is a Air Strength 4 with the reaction to search the top 5 cards of the deck and add 1 to the hand after the conflict is declared against it. This is really, really good because it is repeatable. If they attack it more than 1 turn, like if you manage to successfully defend it and they attack it again in a later turn, then it'll do it again. So it's very good for that card advantage. And it's something that if they manage to break it, I have very few people ever attack it a second time unless it's in the same turn. Because they don't want to give me those resources. So the next province is going to be our Fire province, which is Meditations on the Tao. Fire, Strength 4, and it's an action. During the conflict at this province, choose an attacking character, remove 1 fate from that character. I want to replace this with something, but I just don't like any of the other options. This is the only one that is truly can be farmable, and that term means attacking a province without the intent to break, just claim rings. Every other province in this deck has some unpleasant effect that can't be avoided. This one, while it has an unpleasant effect, it can be avoided by attacking with no one that has fate. So just attack with fateless characters. Otherwise, it's really good. I just don't have any other option for it at the moment. So the next one is going to be Pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is our first Void. Strength 5, which makes it great. And during conflicts of this province, cancel all ring effects. This is important for this deck in particular because they attack it. I'm just going to keep them from breaking. I don't care if they win it. Like, I will give them the ring. I control the favor in a lot of different ways. They can take the ring. They won't get its effect. It's just really strong that way. You don't have to pour as many resources into it. It's just really useful. Really useful. The next one is going to be Shameful Display. Shameful Display is a 3 strength that it's another Void province. During conflict, this province choose two participating characters, honor one and dishonor the other. So it's really useful. because this turns on a lot of our tech, dishonoring them, and it gives us a nice buff of being honored. This one you do have to pay attention to. It doesn't matter where the characters are, they can, like, as far as like, if there are two characters on their side, you can honor one, dishonor the other. If there are two characters on, if there's one character on their side and one on yours, you can dishonor one, honor the other. You just have to think about it strategically and what targets really need to be dishonored versus others. As well as, due to the recent ruling, if, let's say you bring a dishonored character on the defense, and or an honored character in defense, pardon me. So if you have an honored character, let's say you have an honored blackmail artist on the defense, and they attack, and their character is just regular. You can still use this, and even though it won't honor your character, the board state apparently does still change, satisfactory enough for the ability to resolve, dishonoring theirs. So it's still useful that way. And because you will dishonor them, the strength is a little bit higher than what it seems. Because they'll be taking nerfs to their strength based off their glory, they'll have a harder time breaking initially. So it's pretty good. Rally to the Cause, it's between this one and Entrenched Position, and I'll explain the reason why I have this one. This is a water province. It's strength 4. Reaction after this province is revealed, switch the conflict type. So if it's military, you can switch it to water. The reason why I don't have this over the Earth province Entrenched Position, which gives +5 strength in military, is due to the use and what this deck does in particular. This deck's weakness in the conflicts is going to be more on the military side. I don't have as much military strength as I do political, and I know that. And if my opponent knows that, they're going to attack military. This is the Stronghold province, so if they attack the Stronghold, that Entrenched Position gives a nice, good defense. But in most of the situations to where they get there, they're going to have enough strength to knock on the door regardless of what the strength is. And I can't defend it as easily on the military side. So it ends up not working out quite as well for me. The water province, however, I can flip it over to political where I can defend quite handily, or if they are politically strong, and I can switch it over to a military. It all depends on the board state. So this one can be highly flexible. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So I think this is a lot better, but to be honest, I've had so few times they've reached my stronghold. I have not been able to adequately test this card. In the last 10 games, I have maybe seen it twice, and neither time did they break it. They just hit it. So I haven't been able to test it. It's been working well so far, so I'm going to keep it in. So that is the reasoning behind the different provinces. Each one is designed to basically give an unpleasant result to the opponent, be it their ring doesn't trigger, they're dishonored, things of that sort. And Rally to the Cause is just the stronghold. It's always going to be our stronghold province, no matter what. My opponents in my local meta know that this is going to be my stronghold, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm okay with that because it's flexible. They attack with something they're weak in, and it doesn't matter. Like, I can keep it as that. If they attack with something they're strong in, then I can flip it. It doesn't matter. And if they're poking at it, if they're at this stage to where they're poking at it with weak guys, I'm probably in a bad position or in a favorable position, one or the other. If I'm favorable, I'm going to end it. If I'm in a bad position, I probably have lost the game already. So I'm not really worried. So we're going to tackle Dynasty first. This is the easier decks to build, is the Dynasties over the Conflicts, because Dynasties really can only have neutrals and faction cards in them. So less thinking about constructing. So we're going to go from the top to the bottom. And the first, we have 3 Bayushi Liars. Bayushi Liar is a card that's a 1 cost for a -3, 0 glory. It's a courtier with the ability Sincerity. Sincerity is whenever he leaves play, draw a card. This card is probably the best, one of the best cards in the game, straight up. The reason is it's cheap for a really good stat in a political, which is where we like to be. So it doesn't much matter for the military with him. But he also has Sincerity, so he always wants to go away. You never pour more than 1 fate into him. You just want to bring him out. That's it. He draws card at the end of the turn. It's fantastic. And he's got awesome flavor text. He's the Bayushi Liar, and his flavor text is, I sincerely doubt that asking you to trust me will change your mind, and yet I ask anyway. Wonderful flavor, hilarious at the same time. Whenever I have him, I like seeing him in my opening hand. I don't like seeing more than one of him, to be honest, because I would rather my province have something else in it. that I can defend on the military if I need to. But he's really good. He's a fantastic target for any dishonor tech since his glory is 0, and he's a courtier, so he turns on a lot of our other stuff. I always have him as a 3 of in my deck. He's just straight up one of the best cards we've got. So the next card I have a 2 of, he's Byoshi Manipulator. He's a 1 cost for 1 military, 1 political, 1 glory, and with a reaction that after honor dials are revealed, increase the value of your bid by 1. I'm not as big of a fan of this character. The only reason why I have him in my deck is because he's very cheap courtier. He's a 1 cost courtier. His ability is not as relevant in my deck as it is in others. It has come in handy from time to time, but there are many times I don't use it. I like being very specific with my bids, because if I'm bidding high, then I'm not usually bidding at 5. And I'll explain my bidding strategy after this, just to kind of clarify that. But it's very specific what I want with my bid, so it doesn't fit it very well. He has come in handy, but not always. But he's a cheap courtier, so I have him in there as a 2 of. Byoshi Shoju's our next card. He's our champion that came in the core set. He is a unique card. He's 5 cost for 3 military, 7 political, 2 glory, so really good stats, and not too high glory, so if it gets dishonored as a courtier, not a big deal. But if it gets honored, it's a nice little buff. And his ability is what's known as the Chainsaw. It's amazing. While this character is participating in a political conflict, choose a participating character controlled by your opponent. Until the end of the conflict, that character gets -1 political and is discarded if its political skill is 0, limited twice per round. So this is amazing for a couple reasons. First of all, he reduces their stat in the area where he's strong, so he can break provinces pretty easily. Really strong that way. Second, there's a lot of combos that go with him. Using Sinister Soshi or Fiery Madness, which we'll go over those cards later because they're in the deck, they can easily reduce people down to 0, killing them right off the bat. And he can do this to 2 separate people, since he can use it twice per turn, and it leaves the condition on there for the entire conflict. Now, if they leave the conflict, and then you somehow bring these both together during a conflict, then you have to do it again, because that condition has left them. But it's still really strong, really powerful. I only have a 2 of in here due to his cost. He's unique, so if I have extra copies, it just becomes more fate on him. But also, sometimes I don't want to play him due to cost and the situation. I don't really want to see him super early. I want to see him maybe 2nd turn, 3rd turn. But he's great when he does come out. He's a big threat, so I love him. His combos have always been enjoyable for me as well, so I like using him. Alright, so Byoshi Yunako. She's another unique character. She's 4 cost for 4 military, 2 political, 2 glory. She's a Bushi commander, so she doesn't have any traits that we want. So that's kind of sad. But she's great because, 1, she brings up our military, which we need, especially if we're trying to at least defend military provinces. We need military conflicts. We need her a little bit. Alright, so Byoshi Yunako, she is really good because with us, she has this action that switches the base military and political skill. So what's great about this is the fact that you can switch your own, so if you need to in a pinch, our high political guys can become good military. But at the same time, this really hurts characters like Hida Kasada, who are very front-loaded on one stat or the other, and you can switch their stats pretty easily. It can really help out there. And she doesn't have to be in... well, she does have to be participating in the conflict. But she's still really good. Still really good. And she's only 2 of because of her cost and because she's also unique. Again, I don't always want to see her, but she's good when she does come out. So yeah, so the next card is going to be Blackmail Artist. We have a 3 of. So Blackmail Artist is a 2 cost, 1 military, 2 political courtier with 1 glory. I love this guy. I consider him to be a form of a finisher. The reason is after this character wins a political conflict, take 1 honor from your opponent. This is one of the best ways to get that last 1 or 2 honor from your opponent if you're going for the dishonor attack. And I love him. Like, he's been very useful to me. He helps keep your own honor high if you're in the game to where you're bidding low. Like, if you're bidding high, like, usually this is what happens. In a game where I'm trying to take provinces over dishonoring, I'm usually spending my own honor to draw cards. And in order to do so, I need to keep my own honor up. And he helps with that as well. In addition to if I'm going for the dishonor, then he pushes that. So I like him. He's useful. I like him a lot. Then the next card we have, let's see here, we have the Fawning Diplomat. She's also a 3-of. She is one of the best additions we got during the Imperial cycle. The Fawning Diplomat is a 3 cost for a 1 military, 3 political. She's 0 glory and a courtier. She seems understated, but the reason is her ability. When this character leaves play, claim the Imperial favor. This is our first and foremost, like, I got the favor ability. You just can't stop it unless you can turn off the interrupt. And I've had people cloud the mine on my Fawning Diplomat, which I'm okay with, because I just took the favor a different way. But it was ridiculous. The reason why she's a 3 cost, if she was a 2 cost, she could be assassinated by you. Meaning you could just steal a favor, creates a couple not so pleasant combos that kind of break the game a little bit. But so 3 is honestly where she needs to be. It's a good spot for her. And yeah, I love her to death. I don't always play her, but I do play her when I think I'm going to need the ability, or if I've got the money to play her. She's good. She's also got 0 glory, so she's a good target for Dishonor Tech. Alright, so next is going to be our Illustrious Plagiarist. This is our most recent addition, and this guy's a lot of fun. I don't know how good he is yet. I'm still experimenting with him. He's been clutch in certain situations and meh in others, so he's not super consistent, but so far he's earning the spot. He's a 4 cost, 1 military, 3 political, courtier, and Shugenja heir with 1 glory. So courtier and Shugenja is important because courtier is the main keyword we need to trigger our things, and Shugenja helps us with reliability for things like Cloud the Mind that need Shugenja to be able to be played. The action is what makes him so bonkers at times. Choose the topmost event in opponent's conflict discard pile. Note conflict. This character gains each of that event's action abilities until the end of the phase. This is fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It can really suck for your opponent. In the mirror match, this guy's been golden. The reason is they played a Fate Worse Than Death on me. And this is just to show you guys, they played a Fate Worse Than Death. I canceled it. That means they just spent 4 resources for nothing. And then I used the Illustrious Plagiarist to copy that card's action. I do not have to spend the 4 fate. I just get the action. It's super good. Be aware though, for cards such as Display of Power, they have reactions or interrupts like a cancel. He cannot copy those. He can only copy actions. In addition to this, if you are copying a bonsai or a, let's say an assassination, the ability that the action cost, like in the action itself, like losing 3 honor for playing assassination, that is still there. So you still have to pay 3 honor to use that action. So yeah, it's something to remember. He's good. I don't know how good he is, but I'm continuing to test him, and so far he hasn't been failing me, so got him in right now, and he's a lot of fun. The next is the Shosuro Actress. I love this character. She is a finisher for me. She's a power card, absolute power card. She is 3 cost for 1/3. Oh no, another understated. Nope. She's a Courtier Shinobi. Shinobi we don't care about, but Courtier we do. She's got 1 glory, doesn't matter. Never put Fate on her because of her ability. During a conflict, sacrifice this character. Choose a non-shinobi character with printed cost 3 or lower in an opponent's discard pile. Put that character into play in the conflict under your control. Super good ability. Super good ability. This allows her to declare as an attacker or a defender in the first conflict, and then in the next conflict that you need a character in, she can kill herself to bring a character from the discard pile into there. Always mulligan her if she comes into your first draw, because she's not good there. You want her later. At turn 3 especially, she's golden. The one fun combo with her is against Lion to use her to drag out a Spirit Caller and then pull something like a Shoju out of your discard pile. It's a lot of fun. Next card is Shosuro Miyako. So Shosuro Miyako I love because I like her ability. a lot. After you play a character from your hand, your opponent must select one. Discard one card at random from his or her hand, or choose and dishonor a character he or she controls. I always put one fate on her. She's a unique character that I have 3 of in my deck. It's a little different in my mindset here. She's a 3 cost for a 3 military, 2 political, 1 glory. Bushi Shinobi. So no keywords we care about. She's got decent stats though, especially she's got the military. One of the reasons why I originally put her in here was because of the military. I need that military for my strategy because I want to be able to threaten both provinces and dishonor, but provinces I need to be able to defend against military and sometimes attack military, and she gives me that ability. And she's not a slouch in political either. But her reaction is important because I'm running at the moment 5 characters, and which is only half of what you can get. You can only get a max 10 anyway. I'm not really worried about the percentage that has. She comes out in enough situations where her ability has mattered. Her ability is good for 2 reasons. Whenever you play a character, either they will discard a card from their hand at random, which at random is key point there. They don't get to choose it, so that can really hurt them. Or they'll dishonor a character they control. Either one is really good for this deck, because we control the opponent based off of who's dishonored. I love her. She's always come in very good clutch situations for me. And the time she hasn't, I have not regretted playing her. So I like her in this deck. She's proven reliable enough for me to keep. If I put more characters in here especially, she'd be much, much better, but I don't have enough room in my conflict side. And we'll get to that later. So the next card, real quick, she's a 3F because I like having her up as often as I can for those characters. That's the reason. And she's cheaper, she's a 3. So she's not as much as the other uniques. So Sinister Soshi, she's a favorite of a lot of Scorpions. She's one of our best characters. She's a 1 cost for -- no glory. Egad! What? She can't participate in conflicts. No, that's okay. The reason is her ability allows her to choose a participating character and give them -2 military and -2 political till the end of the conflict. It's amazing. She just sits at home and does her job. Be careful here though. She's a Shugenja, which is fantastic for us because we can use her to play Cloud the Mind, but if she is the only character out along with one other character, you have very weak defense. Every time I've found myself in that situation, one other character plus her, I've always been in a bad spot. You want to be able to throw characters into a defense if you can, and with only one character, you can't attack and defend, or defend more than one, so it's not okay. So just be careful when playing her, that you have other options as well. But she's great. She's absolutely great. And she's good target for some of the Dishonor tech as well because she's got 0 glory. That is because she sits at home. If she just sat at home all the time with glory, she could claim the favor way too easily. So they want to make sure that wasn't going to happen. Alright, so the next one is going to be the Soshi Illusionist. I love this card very much. He has been an MVP in several games. Whenever you're facing a deck that focuses a lot on honoring their own characters or dishonoring your characters, he comes into play. He's a 2 cost for a 1 military, 3 political, for 1 glory. That's actually really great value. Really great value. He's a Shugenja as well, so he helps with Cloud the Mind. And his actions: spend 1 fate, choose a character, discard a status token from that character. Of all the 2 drops and 1 drops that we have in Scorpion, this is the only character I consistently consider putting more than just the base fate. Sometimes I want to spend 1 extra fate on him to keep around another turn because his ability is so relevant to what we do. There are many times, in particular matchups mostly, there are certain matchups that aren't as big of a deal. Honestly, a lot of times when I'm facing Dragon, I don't care. It doesn't matter as much. But against Lion, Crane, another Scorpion, very important, and he's become very useful. I have him as the 3F because of this. Don't underestimate him. The next card is Yogo Hiroe. Hiroe is a really great character. A lot of people love him for his ability as well as the theme of it. A lot of people joke and laugh, including people in my local meta, about him being, Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, get over here. Because his ability is very relevant to that. He's a 4 cost for 0/4, so very high political. And remember, you can switch him around if you have Yunako. But he's got 2 glory, so a little high for a Courtier. He's got Courtier stat, which is good, but if he gets hit with the Dishonor, it hurts him a little bit more. His action is, while this character is participating in the conflict, choose a non-participating character, move that character to the conflict. Then, if you win the conflict, you may dishonor that character. May is the key word. Reason is you can target both enemies and allies. You don't have to dishonor your own guys. But if you pull in an enemy, either someone who's bowed already, someone who doesn't want to be in the conflict they want to use for some different conflict, and you win, you dishonor them. It's great. But you can also pull in your own characters to secure them. I've had them covert it was a military conflict. They coverted Shoju, I think. They coverted a character I had. I can't remember which one. But then I brought Hiro in, and then I just pulled the other character in, so he was relevant. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. He's very good. Never underestimate his ability. I only have 2 of him in here because he's another unique, and he costs 4. So he's a little pricey there. But he's great. Absolutely great. I don't like him as much as everyone else does, but he's great. Yogo Outcast. So this is a not fancy Shugenja. It's 2 costs for a 2/2 stat and 1 glory. It's meh. It's a Shugenja character, so it helps us with Cloud the Mind, but he becomes a 2 for 3/3 when you're less honorable. He gets +1 military and +1 political. Due to the way my deck plays, I don't always play him. In certain matchups, he's great. In other matchups, he's a dead card. The reason is, in certain matchups, I almost always have higher honor because I'm dishonoring them. In other matchups, I have almost always lower honor because I'm just straight up trying to kill them and I'm spending my honor other ways. So he's good as a 2 of in this deck, but I don't want him as a 3 of really, because he doesn't bring anything particularly to my deck. He just can be an efficient stat character. I know a lot of people love him. He can be really good, but he's just not as much of what I need. So for the Young Rumor Monger, this is a 2 cost 2/2 courtier with 1 glory. So okay stats. I like the 1 glory, that way it's not too high for a courtier. I originally had this guy as a 2 of in my deck. It wasn't as good as some of the others, but I found as time went on, this guy's been more and more relevant, particularly in certain matchups like Lion and Unicorn. Not Unicorn, sorry, Lion and Crane. And others it's shown it too, it's just not as consistently. But his ability is that he basically, as soon as someone gets honored or dishonored, he can switch that honor or dishonor to someone else on the same side. It can keep very key characters from becoming absolutely broken, nasty. Like, so Honor General is one of those characters in the Lion that he's just terrifying. Like, he's nasty to see out. I don't like seeing him out there. He comes out, he honors himself automatically, becomes respectable in all of his stats, and then he buffs everyone around him. Well, if you can move his honor to someone else that doesn't have as high of glory or something, then it can be really, really useful. So I like this guy quite a bit. Now, that is all of our characters. Now, here I only have 4 holdings. 3 Imperial Storehouse and 1 Imperial Palace. There's a reason. I like seeing characters. I do not like seeing holdings. Holdings take up spots in provinces. And a lot of people, they argue with me using Favorable Grounds. Favorable Grounds is a great card. I will not deny that. And it can be really useful. However, I have had too many opponents who their side has been clogged up and it has secured me games because they had 2 provinces and not enough characters. Or they had, it was just, I don't like that many provinces being in a deck personally. That is a personal choice, and so far it has worked out well for me. The reason why that we use 3 Imperial Storehouses is not for the stat buff or anything. It is because it allows us to draw an extra card out of our conflict side. That is the only reason. Sometimes I'll leave it in there. A lot of times I discard it during the conflict phase. Honestly, I don't usually do it in the Dynasty unless I need to. But yeah, so it's a good card straight up, but it doesn't stay in our provinces. It gets discarded almost immediately. The next one is Imperial Palace. It gives us +2, which is fantastic. My favorite province for this to show up is on the Pilgrimage. And it's limit 1 per deck. It's a unique. I don't know why they only limited 1 per deck when it is a unique, but... Or make it a unique when it's only limited 1 per deck. I don't know. But it's great because it adds 3 to your side during each glory count. This is our second way of securing the favor. This allows us to actually contend with the likes of Phoenix and now Crane, now that they have the Curry Favor ability, the card. This is fantastic. Like, and holding the favor is very important. The reason why for this deck favor is important is it does turn on one particular card in our deck, but it denies everyone else theirs. That's the importance, is denial. That's what this deck does. Super important. So that's our 40 card Dynasty deck. I don't go over 40 because The card gamer me just can't do it. Like, it does, you only see a certain percentage of your deck, and this deck does not dig through it. Like, I do not have the favored Niece in here. I cannot cycle through my deck a lot, so I have to have as much consistency as I can. So we're going to go over to the conflict side. As I mentioned before, we are splashing Dragon, and I'll just go through those cards real quick. We're splashing 2 Let Goes, which is a 0 cost, choose attachment and discard it. This card is great because it fills in one of the major slots we have weakness in, which is controlling attachments. I can't really control them very easily with just my Calling in Favors. Calling in Favors is really good for stealing attachments that they have buffing their guys, but if they use something on me, it becomes a lot harder to deal with, especially if I only have one character out at the time. So this just fills that slot, and it has been very reliable for me. I only have 2 because the other one has become more important. That other card is Mirumoto's Fury. It costs 1. It is a dragon event. During a conflict, choose an attacking character with glory X or lower, bow that character. X is equal to the number of unrevealed provinces you control. So since this deck focuses so much on the mid-range, so you want to be able to control that early game a lot. Regardless of what kind of strategy you're going for, Province Break or Dishonor, you need to control the early game. When they attack you, no one's going to be able to stop Mirumoto's Fury without cancels when they're first attacking, because you have all of your provinces are revealed. They'll flip over 1 on the attack and you'll still have 4. No one's got a glory higher than 4 right now. That could change in the future, but right now it's super reliable, and I think the only character that has that high of glory is, I think, Sukune out of Phoenix. And I know there might be one other Phoenix, but Phoenix is the only ones who can even pose a threat once your provinces start flipping over like that. But by that time, usually we've gained enough an advantage. We're in the lead, and we don't need to worry. This is important for taking down characters who are Voltron characters, meaning that they've got a bunch of buffs stacked on them, bunch of weapons, attachments, so they're massively statted, and this will bow them. Be careful against Lion. Lion does have tech to unbow them immediately, particularly something stand it ready or stand your. I don't remember what the card was called, but it's a lion card that it straightens them right after you bow them. Really good. Alright, so we're going to start with the Scorpion cards now at the very top. We're going to do all the events. A Fate Worse Than Death is our silver bullet. I love this card, and I might be making this a 2 of instead of I Can Swim, which we'll talk about later. This one, it costs 4, so it's a bit of an investment. But during a conflict, you choose a participant character, bow that character, move it home, dishonor it, remove 1 fate from it until the end of the turn, treats text box as if it were blank, except for traits. This is one of the ultimate middle fingers to a character you just don't like. I like this card a lot, and it's been very, very useful. The problem ends up being is it costs 4, and that makes it to where I don't always have the tools to pay for it. But when you know it's going to be in your hand, it's such a good card. I've had it secure several spots to where my opponent couldn't do anything because I use this. So yeah, it's a really good card. I would recommend trying it if you haven't. It's a lot of fun. Especially when you tell your opponent, I'm going to give your character a Fate Worse Than Death. They know what's coming. Anyways, so the next card is going to be Assassination. I run 2 Assassinations. The reason why is because I never will play 3 in a game. If I'm playing 3 in a game, something is weird. I'll only ever play 2. I save them primarily for key characters, because a lot of 2 drops have really good abilities on them and you need them removed. Or if they stack those characters, particularly the Niten Adept. I will get rid of that card, yeah. But this also is really good for targeting low characters that they've put Fate on, to starve them of that resource they put out there. Just be aware of the honor loss. So the honor loss can be used to get you down below their honor, though, to use your stronghold if you haven't already in the turn. So keep that in mind as well. Good card, and it's a card that this is one of those cards in the game that it is healthy for the game, even if it's not in a deck. The reason is it makes people consider the way they play. You can't just stack one character, like a 1-drop character, with 5 fate. They could get assassinated, and you've just lost all that stuff. So that's the reason why the cards like this are good, even if people aren't using them. They have to be kept in mind. So the next card is going to be a Bonsai. I only have 2 in this deck because of card space, and to be honest, this card has become more of a defensive card than an offensive. Every once in a while I use it as a surprise card to push a province, but usually it's defensive. It's a 0-cost Bonsai. During a conflict, choose a participating character. That character gets +2 military until the end of the conflict. You may lose 1 honor to resolve this ability twice, max 1 per conflict. Note that you resolve it twice, meaning you can actually target someone else. This is a great card. I originally didn't want to run it because I wanted to be that guy who's different. I want to do things my way, but this card is too good. It's just amazing. I took out a card for another copy of something else, just because I need the space, and Bonsai is good, but not like a necessary 3 of. If you have to make a card a 3 of, it's better. It has to be really, really good for your deck. So the next card is Calling in Favors. It's a Scorpion event that costs 1, and this is our in-house attachment control. But again, as I mentioned earlier, this is really only good for targeting things that they attach on themselves, so you can steal them. You can use it on other things, but it's just not as good. You dishonor a friendly character, so that's a pretty high cost as it is, in addition to 1, depending on what you're playing. And choose an opponent's attachment, take control of that attachment, and attach to that character Fable. Otherwise, discard the attachment. So this is really good for stealing buffs, and I love it. It's been handy in those times, but be careful, because if you're dishonoring a character who's in combat, then they will be getting a nerf to their glory, and so in that case, you need to make sure that the bonus you're getting from this isn't hurting you more than helping. Just be aware of that. I only have 2 in there because of the cost, really. Dishonoring +1. I didn't want to put a 3rd one in, and we have the Let Goes to balance it out for a total of 4 cards for attachment control. Okay, MVP of the conflict side. Dun 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 dun. Censor! So this is a neutral event. You can only play it if you have the Imperial Favor, which is one of the things this deck just does. When the events of an event would initiate, cancel those effects. It's a cancel card. And it's super good, because all you have to do is have the favor. You don't have to discard it. So this deck maintains control of the favor and allows this to be brought. If you've played all your censors in a game, then you don't have to worry about controlling the favor as much, depending on the matchup. Sometimes you still do, because you don't want to give their character something like against the Lion. You always want to control the favor. You never want to give Ujiaki the favor. Never, never, never. But this is a great card. I run 3 of for that reason. It's a very good card. So the next is one of the staples in a politically strong deck. It's Court Games. During a political conflict, choose one. Select one. Choose and honor a participating character you control, or your opponent chooses and dishonors a participating character he or she controls. Max 1 per conflict. It's cheap, 0 cost. It's only usable during political, which is fine, because that happens quite a bit with this deck. But you will either honor your character and get rid of a status that they have put on your character, which isn't as big of a deal, mind you, unless it's like a big glory character. Or you dishonor their characters. That's what you really have this in here for. Be aware that they choose which one of their characters gets dishonored, but especially against lone defenders or lone attackers, super good. Super good. Next is another political staple, For Shame. At least for us, it's important because we have a lot of courtiers. It's a 0 cost that during a conflict, if you control a participating courtier character, choose a participating character controlled by your opponent. If you have a courtier, you pick their guy, and that guy must either dishonor or bow, one or the other. And if they're already dishonored, they have to bow. They have to. So it's really great for that combo, and if you use it to dishonor them, you can use this in military as long as you have a courtier. Sometimes I'll throw in a military weak courtier just to be able to use these kind of effects to control the battle. It can make the big difference. So Forged Edict is our next card. It is our signature cancel. We also have 3 of it in our deck, so we're running 6 cancels in this deck. And for a guide on things to cancel, or things to be aware of to cancel, it's in the description of the deck list itself on 5 Rings DB. So the interrupt is when the effects of an event would initiate, dishonor a friendly courtier character, then you cancel those effects. So you have to have a courtier out, which is important. The reason why we have so many courtiers in the deck. But then you cancel those effects. Keep your courtiers from being dishonored if you want to use this. Against another Scorpion player, dishonor their courtiers if they can't use this. Great card. Pisses people off when you use these. So the next card is I Can Swim. I have 2 of these right now. These are some of our high cost cards. This is high cost for 3 reasons. 1, it costs 2, which is high for an event. Usually events cost 0 or 1, and that's where they want to be. 2 is a little high. During a conflict, so it's during a conflict, but you have to have your bid honor dial higher. So you have to have bid higher on your honor dial than your opponent. Have to. So that's another cost. You have to set it up. And then you also have to choose a participating dishonor character controlled by the opponent. Discard that character. So you can discard anyone as long as they are dishonored and you have higher bids. Super good. But it can be situational. The better the opponent I'm facing, the less this card makes a difference because they can prepare against it. But there's another reason why this deck does not bid 5 or 1 all the time. I need to be able to be unpredictable and play the mind games. But I've had this card be so useful to me. I love this card, and I love the story behind it too. For those of you unfamiliar with the L5R Rokugani lore, this is a picture of one of the Scorpion Fables kind of mythos things of the Scorpion and the Frog. It's where the Scorpion wanted to cross the water and he asked the Frog to take him, but the Frog was worried that the Scorpion would sting him. The Scorpion's logic is, but then we'll both sink down into the water, and the Frog was like, this makes sense to me, I guess I can take you across. So he starts carrying the Scorpion across, and the Scorpion stings him. And the flavor text goes, but Scorpion, now we will both die. The Scorpion's response, I can swim. And it's basically about the Scorpion mentality of lulling people into that sense of security. Because the Scorpion told him, you know, yeah, that they could both drown, but he didn't know the Scorpion could swim. He left that out. So it's very thematic, very fun story, and I love it because of that. So it's got a place in my heart. But I don't know if I'm going to run 2 for much longer. The future testing will decide that. Next is going to be Way of the Scorpion. This is the best Dishonor card in the game. I'm not going to quote Mushu off of Mulan. Too many people do that. But Way of the Scorpion, unless you're a Scorpion, just straight up dishonor people. That's it. That's what it does. 0 cost. Fantastic. I love these. I love seeing one of these in hand at the opening. Just great. So now we're through the events. We're going to go to the attachments. The first attachment is Cloud the Mind. Cloud the Mind can only be played if a Shugenja character. That's the reason why we like seeing those traits on other people. You play it on an opponent's character and you treat the character as if its printed text box were blank except for traits. This is extremely important for a lot of matchups, particularly Lion, but a lot of matchups to blank out characters that are problems. I reduced this down to a 2 of because of making room for other things, and so far I haven't been missing it, but depending on the future games I might bump it back up to a 3. We will see. But this is a card that is becoming meta defining. It is super important in a lot of matchups for a lot of people. Everyone, if they can run Cloud the Mind right now, is running Cloud the Mind. That's just how it works. The next card is Scorpion Court Mask. This is the only buffing attachment I have. It is a 1 cost for +1/+2. And I have to attach to a character I control and return this attachment to your hand and dishonor attached character is the action. So it's reusable. The reason why I like this over Ornate Fan is because Ornate Fan, while it's a 0 cost, gives me political stat buff that I don't need. My deck is plenty strong politically. I don't want to throw in just the Fine Katanas. I don't really like Fine Katanas. I don't need them as much because I tend to be more defensive than anything when it comes to military or opportunistic. Court Mask, though, has a little bit of both. It gives me a little bit of a stat boost in military and a stat boost in political for 1, and it's reusable, so I like the flexibility. This deck likes flexibility. I like flexibility. The next is going to be Fiery Madness. Scorpion attachment, poison, so this cannot attach to that Tagashi monk guy, which is annoying, and it cannot attach to actually, I think it's another monk character. Yeah, it's another monk courtier, I think, that it's immune to it can't be attached with poison, which I thought was pretty specific, but that possibly means they're printing more poison cards. But this gives them a -2, -2, which is just straight up a good stat debuff. We like seeing this. I like putting this on characters. It just helps. Also, this helps secure kills with Baishi Shoju. So, great card. I only have a 2 of. I have 6 attachments in total in my deck with that count. I like events. Events are much better for this deck, in my opinion. So for characters, we only are running 5, so half of the allotted 10. This is not Drop Bears. I'm running 2 Adept of Shadows, which is a 2 cost for 2/2 and 0 glory, and with an action, lose 1 honor, return this character to hand. It's a Shinobi Bushi. The reason why I have this character is I was originally running Yojimbo, the unassuming Yojimbo, but I never was playing the unassuming Yojimbo because either was one fate too short, or I was just at it, and I never played him preemptively for his covert ability. So right now I use her. She's much better for me. She works a lot better, and because she can be returned to her hand, she can actually, if you've put fate on Miyako, she can trigger Miyako a couple times in a couple turns. I like her a lot, and she essentially makes it to where I consider each copy of her to be at least 2 copies, so that makes Miyako a lot more consistent. So for those of you who don't like running Miyako, especially in this build because I'm not running as many characters, this makes it relevant. They can get more use out of it. This basically just means I have flexibility. This deck likes flexibility. I like flexibility. Hehe, repeating theme here. The next card is Cunning Magistrate. This guy, I love him. I was so excited for him, and I was so sad I had to wait so long for him. But he's got all the Magistrate stats, meaning 3 drop for 2/2 and 1 glory. Bushi Imperial Magistrate, standard, everything. This guy is amazing for 2 reasons. One, what he does to political is he makes it to where, not political, sorry, what he does to Dishonor is any other Dishonor characters don't count their skill to the conflict he's in, which is amazing. You Dishonor someone like Kasada or other clan champions with really weighted stats, and it doesn't matter what conflict is, they don't count their skill towards the resolution. It's amazing, and it works on the offense and defense. That is the second part that makes it so good. Never forget that. Most magistrates are only on the attack. You can do this on a defense. I've dropped him into a conflict before because they were dishonored, and they had 3 dishonored people. They had a 1/1 and a couple other dishonors that were big guys, and they had bowed my only other guy in the conflict. So I drop him in. He makes 2 of the other guys aren't counting, and I'm actually winning the conflict at that point. He's really good. I don't know if he's worth the 3 slots, but I'm trying the 3 slots to see how it goes, and so far it hasn't been regretting it. I like him. So that is the reasonings behind the construction of the deck. Just to kind of give you a small insight, that you can find all these points in the guide, but this is not a bid 5 or bid 1 deck. You bid accordingly. This means you have to be aware, be proactive in what you're doing, be unpredictable, and think about bidding and what needs to be done. Don't bid 5 if you need a lot of cards. Bid 4. Here's the reason. If you're bidding against someone who they like to draw a lot of cards, you can dishonor them very quickly. So bid low. But if you're not sure they're going to bid low, bid 2. Most people, when they bid low, they bid 1. This makes a difference because Let Go is turned on by bidding higher than your opponent. You just need to be 1 higher. So if they bid 1 and you bid 2, you give them 1 honor and you can kill their dishonor guys now. Major threat. Whereas, you know, if they bid 5 and you bid 4, there's not that much of a difference. And they give you an honor, so you can dishonor them easier. You do not need to bid super high or super low all the time. Like, learn to play those mid bids between 2 and 4. Like, they can really help you. Now, sometimes if you're getting someone down to the last 2 of their honor, then yeah, bidding 1 makes sense because you don't want to give them the honor, but it can be incredibly useful. Don't ever forget it. The strategy for conflicts is generally you are breaking provinces as well as threatening dishonor. Do not focus on dishonor. If you're given an opportunity, fantastic. And a good example of this in Crab likes to run some honor-threatening cards themselves, but they can throw themselves into a hole by doing so, and you can push dishonor that way. Against Lion, they sometimes will bid high. Like the Military Lion likes to bid high for cards. They have much more reliance on their Dynasty deck, but they still want the cards in hand because it prevents your stuff. They can add more to their strengths. If they bid high, you can bid low and drain them of honor, and all of a sudden they have to be very careful. And if all you do is like wail on them for honor, like it can be really effective. And in no game do I play, unless I'm playing against Scorpion, no game has ever been no province breaks, Dishonor win. It has been a lot of times I've broken 3 other provinces and I'm knocking on their stronghold door and threatening Dishonor. Scorpion's the only example. The reason is because I found a farmable province of theirs, and then I just kept knocking on their door for honor and wearing them down, playing a better attrition control than they could. That is the reason. The thing is with Scorpion decks have so many unpredictable strategies in them that it's really hard to play against them. Every game I've won against Scorpion has been down to the wire. You have to be very careful. If you push the conflicts too strong, you can lose. If you push the Dishonor too strong, you can lose. You have to be careful. There's other points in my guide about how to face each individual clan, my strategies thereof. Absolutely ask any questions you have. You know, if you like my deck guide, leave a like on the page. And I plan on doing these kind of guides for whenever I actually do main a deck. This has been my first love of the game, because I was originally a Scorpion player back in the days of the CCG, and I've just maintained that. And this is now the deck I currently use. So yeah, if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask, and I'll do my best to answer. So thanks, everybody.